Check, check, peace, 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 peace. So, um, I'm live. This is your brother Ujao, as you can see. Check, check, peace. And I'm hearing myself. Peace, 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 which is a good thing. That means everything is working. So I'm just gonna kind of but actually this is not public. I don't know why it does not do it. There we go. We are public now. Definitely have to change that setting. So peace to anyone who clicked the link, hanging out with me for a little bit. So I want to have a quick discussion that's going to be complementary to my Facebook post, well, not the most recent Facebook post. I did a recent Facebook post about these gas prices. Now I don't know about where you are, but the gas prices have definitely gone up within a matter of hours. At least that's been my experience. But no, not that post. The post before it, I did a post about Ahmose-Nefertari and the misrepresentation of her. People are using certain pictures of her to make certain claims, and so I did a Facebook post, short Facebook post to kind of put it out there that that's what's occurring. So anyway, this video I'm doing right now is a complimentary video to that, complements that. All right, so because there was a lot of comments, a few comments on the post, and everyone was kind of divided on that. So I'm live. Just have a discussion. I put the link to this Zoom. Anybody who wants to come and say something, the link is pinned in this video. So if you're watching now, first of all, appreciate it, and then second, come in the Zoom and hang out. Nobody's gonna bite. It's a safe place. If you agree, disagree, everything is all good. All right. So I'm kind of just ramble on for a little bit, give anybody a chance to tune in. Then there was a brother, Neil Spite, that was trying to get in touch with me to speak about this. So I'm not sure if he's available, but I did tag him. Matter of fact, let me tag him in this video right now. Yep, I will tag him right now. There you go. So yeah, so if you have time and you don't have to have your camera on anything, but if you want to speak on this topic, again, the topic is the misrepresentation of Ahmose-Nefertari, and it's a recent post that I did. Like I said, not the last one. These gas prices was the last post. I don't know what your matter of fact. I see peace, Nusha. Nusha, so great. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Make sure. Yeah, I heard myself, so I'm all right. But yeah, so what's the gas prices in your area? Somebody, let's do a gas price roll call. That's how bad gas may be. We could do a gas price roll call. I'm hearing it could get up to $4 and above $4 easily because of the hack. If you're not aware, I'm not too informed on it myself. So, but what I did see reported was that a major gas line company was hacked. The system was hacked, and pretty much made all the gas function of the company, everything like that, put them at a standstill. And so until they get back online and fully functional, there are going to be gas shortages. And so a lot of people are lining up at the gas stations right now, filling up on gas, filling up 2-gallon gas cans and everything. I mean, I've seen it myself. The line is going all the way around the corner and things. So anyway, oh, it's still cheap in Houston. Okay. 289. South Carolina, 239 in Houston. Okay. I'm telling you, this whole week is gonna be interesting. Gonna be interesting. Definitely. So, my advice is to definitely fill your tank up. Now, they say we don't have to hoard the gas and stuff. So I don't hope people don't go overboard and do like when the pandemic first caught on, when people first took it serious, people flooded the supermarkets, bought up all the toilet paper, all the Kleenex, all the paper towels. Um, I mean, the grocery stores were bare. Even vegetable oil was gone. So anyway, all right. Um, yeah, so that's my advice. Get your gas because it's gonna be interesting. It may go up. Now I don't know. Now this is obviously a state by state situation, but here in Georgia, I think that they announce or prevent the gas stations from what they call price gorging, which means the gas stations are not allowed to just increase the price, um, by a certain rate. So, the price went up, but they're not allowed to just set any price. I'm sure if it was up to them, they'd set it like at $6 a gallon. Yeah. So wow, 339, 379. Wow. You know what though? I bet you everybody that has, a nice high performance car or whatever, and everybody that gets that 93 octane, normally, I bet you right now they went down to 89, 87 octane gas, that regular. Like, give me 40 on regular, pump 8. They're not doing that 93, 95 uh octane. All right. Okay, so I think I waffle on enough. All right, so I'm gonna get into this topic. Okay, so the topic is the misrepresentation of Ahmose-Nefertari. Okay, so like I said, this video is a very quick compliment to my Facebook post. I just want to go over the post and motivation why I posted and just read it. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. I posted a link to this Zoom. If anybody wants to chime in, come on in. And that's the only way that I'll extend the conversation. Otherwise, I'm just going to share this so people can hear what I'm saying as opposed to read it and then um I don't know what it is, but this so-called conscious community environment, people read something and the first thought is not, oh, okay, let me check that out, man. I didn't know that, or well, that's interesting. I didn't think about that or whatever. Let me check it out. No, the first thought that people have is that's wrong. Now let me go find out what's wrong about it. They declare it's wrong first, and then they go try to find something to make it wrong. Oh boy, this is crazy out here in uh these noisy streets, these YouTube streets and social media streets. That's backwards. That is definitely backwards. But okay, so all right, here we go. So we're gonna go into it. So I'm gonna change my screen over um to the post. Okay, so this is my post. I posted it 18 hours. Wow, I didn't realize it was that long ago. 18 hours ago. Get my cursor over here. Okay, so this is on my page. I posted it in two places. I posted it on my page, on my timeline, and I posted it in the Amara Squad scholarship group. So if you're a member of that group, you may see it twice. I think that's and then other people may have shared it. Yeah, it has not shared, so you may have seen it somewhere else. Okay, so I'm just gonna get into it. So, obviously, this is the picture. So let me show the picture, and I'll show this picture again, but I'll read it. So I'm posting. I'm telling people to be mindful, be diligent. To the left is an image of Ahmose-Nefertari, which is her name, but we pronounce it conventionally as Ahmose-Nefertari. But her name, even Neferet is we say Nefertiti, and so Nefertari, her name is Neferet-Iri. But anyway, to the left is an image of Ahmes Neferet-Iri, painted with black pigment. And this is from tomb TT359. All right. So if you want to look it up, there's a reference for you to look up the tomb. So, and this is this image here on the left. So this image and others like it are used in attempts to support the claim of her being black, as if to say the image is a realization of her actual skin color. Now, just a quick pause and quick question. Let me get back over here to the chat. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna ask you all, how many of you all have seen this picture before and have heard people or seen people use this picture to claim the ancient Egyptians were black? So I'm just gonna leave a question out there, and I know there's a delay, so just want to see what you all are saying. How many of you all have seen this picture before, used in reference to the claim that the ancient Egyptians are black? Just curious. As a matter of fact, let me scroll this picture up so you can see it. The picture on the left. Oh, there's definitely a delay. Okay, so I know it's a delay. I see Anusha said she said thumbs up. So again, the question is, how many of you have, I know everybody pretty much heard the claim that the Egyptians are black, but to support it, people show things and say other things to support that claim. And so this picture on the left is one of the pictures that a lot of people use to say the Egyptians are black. All right, so I'm just curious about that. So I only see one person. So one out of, I got 1,000 people watching. Only one person thumbs up. Said yes. Two people. All right, but anyway, let's keep it moving. So let's read. Okay, so the picture on the left and others like it are used in attempts to support the claim of her being black, as if to say the image is a realization of her actual skin color. Such claims are false, but frequently pop up in discussions projecting the modern social constructs of race into the past when no such construct was used to distinguish populations. All right, that is important. And I want to stress that. So this is what happens. Today, our modern concept of race, or our concept of race, is a modern concept. It is a social construct. And what that means is that we divide human populations based on a social construct that we call race. And so there are 5 basic races that, are primarily used. And we're so confused about that we will start naming continents and countries as if it's a race. For example, people will say Mexicans as if that's a race of Mexicans, and so on and so forth. Or continents, a race of, India has the second largest population behind China. But we're confused because we'll say white, black, and then those are 2 colors. And then we'll say oceanic. And then we'll start naming countries, we'll start naming continents and stuff. So we have a very, very confused way, which should tell you right up front that something is wrong or something is not adequate enough to categorize human populations, the distinctions that we see. So here's the thing. We all observe and experience population distinction. We know and we can detect differences in populations. Now, the criteria for those differences today is the modern social construct of race. In historical times and in ancient times, they had no such modern construct in their consciousness. In ancient times, populations were distinguished based on culture slash ethnicity, what we would call ethnicity today. That's how they um, made distinctions from one another, these population groups. Okay, so that's what I mean here. All right. So what we're doing today is that we're taking our modern way of human taxonomy, is what it's called, human taxa, where we are categorizing human populations. We're taking our modern criteria and concepts, and we're trying to retroactively project it into the ancient world. And so, and that's very, very problematic. And that's why all of these arguments keep taking place over and over and over again, because we're doing something we should not be doing. All right. And so that's what I'm pointing out. And because of it, people will make claims using these pictures like this. You know, Ahmose-Nefertari, because her skin is painted black, the Egyptians are black, or she was black, and et cetera, et cetera. All right, so I'm gonna keep reading. Now, the two images, so that was all about the left image. All right. The two images on the right are also Ahmose-Nefertari, okay, but painted with yellowish pigments. And these are from two different tombs. This is tomb TT2, and the bottom one on the right is tomb TT16. Okay. Now, these yellow pigments are used typically in Egyptian art to represent women. All right. So this yellow that you see here, or yellowish, because it varies. And plus, we have to understand that a lot of pictures of ancient Egyptian wall scenes and artifacts and things, we have to remember that we're looking at thousands of year old artifacts. And so there's been weathering, there's been pollution, condensations, damage throughout history for these artifacts. And so the fact that they're still well preserved to the extent they are now is amazing. Okay. Outside of any restoration that, archaeologists and the likes have done to these artifacts, but it's still amazing. Okay. So that's what I'm saying there about these two pictures. Now, so then my last sentence on here is the fact that the use of the black pigment is related to Ahmose-Nefertari's deification and not a representation of her actual skin color. All right. And so this should be obvious by just simply looking at what I posted, these three pictures. So on the left, she's black. They use black pigmentation to represent her. On the right, the top and the bottom, yellow, or a yellowish pigment. She can be both. And now here's the funny thing, because if all of these are literal, then she was high yellow, and she must have slept like a week on the Nile River in the smack dab middle of the day in the sun on a raft in the Nile, floating down the Nile, and got crispy. Okay. To go from this shade to this shade. Okay. Now we know that's not true. All right. So that's if anybody out there thinks that these three depictions are meant to be taken literally. All right. So, if you take it literally, then please explain to me how a person this yellow, because if you think this is literal, then you think she changed from this to this. Okay. And I want an explanation. I want to know how that was done. But anyway, so that's the gist of the post. The whole point is that this black representation of her is not the ancient scribes and artisans. Them painting her black is not to tell the onlooker that her skin is literally black and that she's a black lady, or was a black lady with black skin, and so on and so forth. That wasn't the intent of them painting her this way. Now, so there's a lot of comments on here. How many comments? Well, it's 53 comments on here, and I'm not going to read them all, but I do want to go over some of them. But just 1 second though. So again, if anybody's watching, I always appreciate anybody who watches, my on the spot live. I'm pushing the live button. But now I want to remind you that the link is pinned in the chat of this video. So if you have anything to say or whatever, click the link. Otherwise, I'm going to finish up and then I'm going to close out. All right. So and I should have posted this video in the Raw Squad group as well. Okay. All right. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So I'm going to go over a couple of these comments. I think they're mentioning. I think I have some.
Well, Joe, you hear me?
There we go. We got brother Neil Spike. Yes.
Man, man, I'm totally out of character, out of line. I didn't look at the post or nothing. You all the way absolutely right. Only thing I had a problem with, I was looking at it from a perspective that we have, because I had a let me say this. I had a conversation with Ngozi, and we was dealing with all of the mummies that have been tested. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, you muted yourself. If you can hear me, there you go.
How about now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we had a understanding that Egypt had been settled. It had been settled that what they were was not from the south or had any sub-Saharan strains. And I dispute and disagree because of Diop's and Dr. Ben's teachings of the first 1 to 10 dynasties. The basic foundation have not, they don't have any DNA on those mummies. So how can you come to conclusions when you're only using Middle Kingdom to Late Kingdom and Roman period mummy DNA?
Right. I mean, you're right. I mean, and I think I spoke on this last night, sometime recent, is that we have to remember that Egypt at all times it was never a homogeneous population. So it was never one group of people that occupied Egypt or ancient.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear something in the background. You still there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm on the bus, right? I'm in Griffith Park by the golf course. So he made a statement.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that so we have to understand that Egypt was never a homogeneous population. That over time, pre-dynastic, there were several different groups that kind of converged there on the Nile River and settled up and down the Nile. But now here's another thing that we have to understand is that when people say the Egyptians come from the south and all of that, there's some truth in that, because the governmental structure and the order and the unification efforts came from the south moving up north.
Okay, yeah.
It was a south to north movement of all of that. And so we have to understand that. And that's really the only extent that we can say, okay, that the structure or government or the administration came from the south, but not all the people.
Exactly. Now my question would be then, where do we draw the marker from Dynasty 1? Because I was looking at some Quasi information, Ashra Quasi, and he has a book with like 35 first to 10th Dynasty Kingdom artwork and forms of sculpture, all of them broad nose, woolly hair and the like. I mean, it's just kind of like the beginning foundation all had, and then I think Diop and Ben shared that the mothers were like Nubians. Most of the first pharaohs' mothers, all of them were Nubian.
Well, that's what I mean. That speaks to what I'm saying as far as the administration, starting from
Okay.
is giving credit to Namir. Some people say Scorpion King prior to him, or Mini or Menez.
Yeah.
Regardless of who people feel is the first pharaoh that starts the first dynasty and whatnot, that administration, that organizing element came from
Yes.
a south to north movement. You
And I
know,
think that's always been, yeah, exactly. I think that's always been the issue with us as African Americans, as far as Africans in general, and Egyptology on the other side of that, have been saying that came from the North administration.
nah, no, the administration came from the south.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh.
Hey, I'm out. I'm out, man. You the god of this. Go on and handle your business. My bad on everything. My bad.
Okay, all right, all right, all right, all right. Peace. I mean, you're welcome to stay here, but I know you're muted because I hear some things in the background. So I'm gonna keep on talking. So, but yeah, that's a good point. So let me just kind of speak on that a little bit more. And so the concern. So okay, number one, everybody has to understand that put this back on the picture. Everyone has to understand that ancient Egypt was not a homogeneous population, which means a population of people that are all the same, all across different levels, genetics, the way they looked and the way they did everything. No, that's fantasy and that's fairy tale. That did not exist. Okay. And I don't know too many people who believe that, but it's worth mentioning. We have to make sure that's very clear. So prior to Egypt even unifying or forming the pharaonic Egypt that, we all talk about, it was an amalgamation of different populations of people who settled along the Nile, became a little more sedentary, and, created this Nile, this river type cultures. Okay. And then later on, an organizing, element came through administratively and started to organize, unify, and so on over time. And we refer to that as unification, that became Tawi, Sema Tawi, even prior to it being called Kemet. And it's another FYI, in case people don't know, Kemet was not called Kemet until the 11th dynasty. Okay. So prior to the 11th dynasty, there was no name Kemet for the entire kingdom. It was often referred to as mostly as Tawi and Khenu. Khenu meaning the interior and Tawi meaning the two regions. And so we have to understand that in the consciousness of the ancient Egyptian people who call themselves the Rimage, they always saw their kingdom as a duality, as two regions continually existing but unified. The northern part, which is Ta Mehu, and then the southern part, which is Ta Shemau. Ta Shemau is the valley, and Ta Mehu is the delta. And so their civilization should be more correctly called the Nile Valley and Delta civilization, not just the Nile Valley civilization. So all those Nile Valley folks, that's on social media, whatever, people need to correct themselves and say the Nile Valley and Delta civilization, and that's important because that's how the Egyptians saw their own civilization, as two things. Tawi, the word Tawi is a dual. Ta meaning region or land and earth in some cases. And then the we is a masculine dual ending. So it's two lands, just like you have two in Debwi, which means two riverbanks. Okay. So that has to be understood. And when this unification process took place, they had the way cultures organically grow, they grew into a unified culture with an identity and refer to themselves as the Remech. All right. So it's really just that simple. Now, genetically, they're not all the same. They never were, because different populations came from the direction of the Sahara, came from the Levant, came from the South. Everybody converged on that Nile from all directions. Okay. And over time, they, form this consciousness of being one, this unified thing. They refer to themselves as image. All right. So that's the extent that everybody should be comfortable with. And that should eliminate all of the concerns and arguments, which leads into this post again. There are people now, let me just say this. The push, the big effort to push that the Egyptians are black. It's all you hear, black. That is a result of an overcompensation in the racism of Egyptology and scholarship in general. So in other words, we know that early Egyptology was racist. I mean, racism was pretty much across the board, because when Egyptology became a thing, slavery was going on. All right. People should already know that. And so here's the thing. The people who organized Egyptology, which is the study of Egypt, the people who organized that and started to investigate and research Egypt as a formal study, they could never say that the ancient Egyptians were anywhere near in likeness to the people that the world was enslaving, that the European world was enslaving. So they always had to have a disconnect between the Egyptians and the rest of Africa, because the rest of Africa was fair game for enslavement. And they couldn't big up Egypt or big up ancient Egypt and say how wonderful it was, how mysterious it was, and how, all that in the bag of chips ancient Kemet was, but then turn around and say the same people who built that are the same people we're enslaving. So that's a no-no. They could not do that. So the effort was to make sure that they always separated Kemet from the rest of Africa. And we see this in the scholarship from the beginning, from Champollion all the way down to until we start to see that dissolve a bit. And so here comes Diop, Cheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, and Dr. Theophile Obenga. And their efforts at the Cairo symposium, UNESCO symposium, I believe 1974. So they come on stage fully prepared to push back against that buildup of slanted scholarship. All right. Or, scholarship that I would say a lot of things are omitted or devalued. I'll put it that way. So they come fully prepared and they do their thing in 1974. But to push back, there's an overcompensation of it. And so now we have people today that are still overly compensating. And what I mean by that is like, if overcompensate, like if somebody's pushing you and then you don't want to move, you basically have to match their strength so you don't move. But if you overcompensate and you push too hard, then not only will they not be able to move you, but now you're going to knock them off their feet and push them too hard. So that's overcompensation. So that's what's going on right now. People are overly compensating, making up claims that are just not true. Okay. Ahmose-Nefertari did not have black skin. What's another one that people use? All right, let me switch up a bit. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna show another one that people use. Let me switch over here. Okay, so you all see that picture there, but let me switch over to another one. Here's another one that people use. People like to use Mentuhotep or Nisud or King Mentuhotep on the right. And I hope y'all can see that. I'll make sure I can see. Oh, yeah. So people will say, Mentuhotep is black. Egyptians are black. They have black skin, and that's just not true either. All right. Because on the left, it's also Mentuhotep. All right. Now, either he had a heck of a tan. Not even so much as Nefertari, Ahmose-Nefertari. I mean, her tan would have been like, that's amazing. Like if somebody, listen, if somebody can make somebody this high yellow, now I'm just being facetious at right now, but I'm saying if for those people who take this literally, if this lady is this high yellow and she turns this black, whoever can do that right now is an instant billionaire. I'm telling you, you be a billionaire and I'll be your manager. Just come, inbox me. I'll be your manager. All right. So, but that's just not the case. Same thing with Mentuhotep. All right. It's just not the case. These are not literal. And I can go into a whole long build about color symbolisms in Kemet. And I did it before, but I'll probably do it again. Definitely not now. So that's another picture. And here's some more pictures of Mentuhotep. Here are different ones. These are all Mentuhotep. You see him here, you see him here, you see him here, and you see the statue that people use. Now, what's interesting is people will favor this statue, and you'll see the statue mostly. Same thing with Ahmose-Nefertari. You'll see this a lot, but you will never see this. Like me, I've been doing this for a long time. And the people I see that argue and bring up Ahmose-Nefertari, I have never seen people use this picture or the one below. And just as a point of reference, we know it's Ahmose-Nefertari because we can read her name right next to her. And this one is in front of her face. Matter of fact, I can put my arrow on here so I can show you. Okay, that's her name. We have Ahmose or Ahmose-Nefertari. Okay, that's her name. And then over here, her name is right here. Okay, behind her. Both of them are in Shinu, which is people know as cartouche. Ahmose-Nefertari, Ahmose-Nefertari. You can go glyph for glyph and see how they arrange. The only difference is that she's facing to the right on this one, so the glyphs are arranged in the other direction than on this one. All right, and that's it. Okay, and this is Amenhotep, excuse me, who was king. And likewise, this is Amenhotep as well, and the picture's cut off in the front. And even on this one, this is the left side of a bigger picture. This is just cut off, but on the other side is Amenhotep. All right. So anyway, that's the thing. So this overcompensation is what leads to what people mess around and say, which is blackologists or blackology, where people are trying to blackanize everything, make everything and everybody black. That's all you hear. To the point where they're making King James black. They're making Alexander the Greek black. They're making Buddha black. They're making everybody black, in history. Even fictional characters. Pinocchio's black now. Rudolph is black. He just got a red nose. Now Rudolph is black. I got animal characters just being black. Everything is being switched to black. And again, this is a result of this over compensation. And we don't have to do that. So here's the thing. The ancient Egyptians were a distinct amalgamation of people. They were a distinct nation. They distinguished themselves from their neighbors, from all their neighbors. Okay. And that was very important for them to do. They distinguished themselves from everybody to the east of them, to the south of them, and to the west. As the sun rises in the east on their left, Yabet, and at high noon, which is representative of the south, Resi, and then on the setting of the sun on their right-hand side, Amenet. These three groupings, inclusive of themselves, makes four, is what people are calling the Table of Nations. And I've gone over this many, many, many times. Let me see if I have a picture of it real quick to show as I'm speaking. Okay, right here. if you've ever wondered, now I'm sure you all have seen this in some form or fashion, seen these pictures in some form or fashion where people talk about the race of the ancient Egyptians. They always go, matter of fact, they really only go to this top one here. Let me put my arrow on there. They really only show this one. A lot of people show this one because they like to show this and say, this is the Remich and this is the Nahisiu. So they saw them as the same. And that's what people are posting on Facebook even recently. Now I've gone over this many, many times, and I probably will do it again, but I'm not going to do it now. But my point to show this is that if you've ever wondered, though, why only 4 groups? Because people like to call this the Table of Nations, as if the Egyptians was trying to do an anthropological study of humans, and then they just labeled them, these are the Table of Nations. No, none of that's true. They weren't doing that. So it shouldn't be called the Table of Nations. It's not the Table of Nations. These people are actually called the herd or the cattle of Ra. And they're being herded by Heru right here. If y'all can see Heru right here in the right here. And I've gone over this before. We've read all of the glyphs. There's a video on the channel Sesh Netcher. And actually on this video, I'm going to post it in the chat once I get the link. But these people are called the cattle or the herd of Ra, and they're being, shepherded by Heru. And this is where you get this, good shepherd. And, people try to say, that's like Jesus. Jesus was a good shepherd, shepherd of God and so on and so forth. But anyway, but the reason why there are 4 groupings is 4 by 4. It's 4 sets of 4. And so you got the Egyptians themselves, and they refer to themselves as the Remich. You can see this in the glyphs here, going from left to right, even though they're facing to the right. This is called retrograde inscriptions, by the way. This is Remich, and you see the glyphs in between them together spells Remich. The next group is the Amu. So you got 2 here and 2 up here. But you see the glyphs in between them all together is spell out the Amu, which people translate as the Asiatics. That's the Easterners. Okay. So you got the Egyptians themselves. Then they have a representation of the East. Iabit, which is the East to their left. Then you have South, which is represented by the Nehisiu. And that's what you read here in between these people, these 4 set. The Nehisiu, that's the South. Then you end up on the West. And the West is represented by the Chemehu, which is what you see here. The Chemehu, which are the Libyans. Okay. And so you have the Egyptians themselves. Then you have East, South, West. That's why you have 4. All right. You have 4 of those. It's not all the nations. That's not everybody that they knew. They knew about the Greeks. They knew about the Babylonians. They have a lot of people and foreign, they knew a lot about a lot of distinct populations of people, not just these 4, but these 4 representative of the East, like I said, the East, the South, and then the West. All right. The way that the sun travels. Okay. Another quick note, this text here, or this image, these images, by the way, this comes from Ramses III tomb. This one here is a reproduction of the tomb of Seti I. And then there's another one that I'm not showing, a third tomb that has the same figures. And that's the tomb of Monoliterals, which is the grandson of Seti I. Okay. And what this is a part of is a part of a text that's been now called the Book of Gates. And the Book of Gates is an underworld text where it talks about what takes place in the Duat and so on and so forth. That's a whole nother discussion. But I'm just giving you a little context of this. And so people tend to use these things to like I said, overly compensate and argue over and over and over again for years and years, ever since the 1970s, that the Egyptians are Black. And so it comes down to a question that I would ask people is who are we trying to convince? Like the people that do this, who are you trying to convince? Because if you're trying to convince Europeans, then that's going to be a little different. Or if you're trying to convince Black people, or you're trying to convince white people that the Egyptians are Black, or you're trying to convince both. So that's a question to put out there. But this has been going on for since the 70s. And it gets intense, it dies down a bit, and it gets intense, it dies down a bit. And so what I'm saying is that we need to stop all of that, because all those racial conversations are irrelevant to ancient times, because the human populations and the distinctions of these groupings and categories were not based on the same criteria that we use today. They did not distinguish people based on their skin color. Culture is king. Remember that. Culture is king. Culture is king. That's how they distinguish each other, based on how you dressed, your rituals, your the way you protected yourself, your weaponry, your food production, whether you were herder, what do you call it, hunter-gatherer, agriculturalist, or any combination and mixture thereof. All these things and a whole bunch more came together to express a culture, and that's what made you, or this group, and that group over there, that group. And also territory. Okay, there was a level of respect for territory for a distinct characteristic group of people. And then when resources are low, that's when you have clashes of territory and boundaries and borders, and war and fighting breaks out. It's mainly due to territory, resources, encroachment on other territories. Now, Egypt, or ancient Egypt, or Kemet, was in a very good geographical place. Why? Because it had natural borders. It had the mountains on the left and right with the desert. And then at the north end, it had the Mediterranean Sea, which they called the Great Green, Wedgeware. And then to the south, they had all the cataracts, which was a disruption in the river to the point where boats couldn't even get over it. So these cataracts in the south, the desert and the mountains on the left and right, which was east and west, and then you have the Mediterranean Sea in the north. Those are natural borders. And then the fact that they live in a valley as well. So that was very good to keep people away from hostile activity for a good amount of time, put it that way. But usually when wars would happen, it would be over resources, trade routes, and things like that. All right. So, but anyway, the Egyptians were a distinct group of people, and they themselves weren't all the same. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's just important. It's worth repeating. Oh, you're hearing the echo? Hold on, let me make sure it's not me. Who else is hearing the echo? No? Okay. Yeah, Mika, I think that's your internet. You gotta my recommendation is to cancel Cricket Wireless, and get with AT&T, get with the real carrier. Tell you about that Cricket Wireless. Um, you know, but all right, so where was I? All right, anyway, I'll end up just repeating myself. So let me just repeat myself one last time then. Let me go back to the picture because I'm gonna summarize. because you all know I can get real long-winded. I'll talk to y'all till I'll put y'all to sleep. This will be like a bedtime story. Okay, so this was my original picture that I posted, and everybody can read my post, so I'm not going to read it over again. But the point here is that Ahmose-Nefertari, who is seen in all three of these pictures, is the same person. We know that because her name is in the glyphs. I pointed them out to you. You see it here. You see her name here. You see her name here. Okay, but she is depicted differently. She's depicted with black pigment on the left and yellowish pigment on the right, upper and lower. Okay, so either you got to take them all literally, or just realize that you're definitely cherry picking and you have no basis by which to make any claims. It's just some arbitrary feelings that you have and you just want to tell somebody. But that's not the way to go. That's not how we do scholarship. That's not how we do science. So my point is that she is not literally black skin. Black has a very significant meaning in the culture. And I'll just give you a few of the many because people have asked me on the post. The reason why they paint her black and a few others black is based on the funerary context. So with her, she is found, and this is rare for a person to be found in other people's tombs. So she is depicted in over 50 private tombs. 50. Okay. Because she was deified for her great works when she was alive, what she did, because she is like the mother of the 18th dynasty. And I suggest you all look her up because she is definitely a very highly venerated woman, African woman, in Kemet. Okay. And let me just say that the Egyptians, and I forgot to say this earlier, the Egyptians were wholeheartedly African. So that should satisfy everybody. They're African. Egypt then and Egypt now is still on the continent of Africa. And if you think otherwise, then I don't know what school you went to or college, but wherever that was, please make sure you get your money back. But Egypt is on the continent of Africa. It always was, and it still is. And I don't see it going anywhere. So the civilization, the people, they're African. And we don't have to, make that complex. It's a very simple thing. Whether they have black skin or not is irrelevant. That's just something that we do today. And we don't even do it. We inherited it and we were programmed to do that by others who labeled us and set up this social class system and this hierarchy where black is actually the bottom level. See, we walk around today, and man, I'm going to go on my soapbox, but we walk around today saying I'm black and I'm proud, not realizing the reality behind making those statements. To us, it feels good. For us, it's a pride thing. We want to instill pride, and basically when we say we're black and we're proud, especially in the 70s, when natural was the way to go. Coming out of the 60s and the perms and the conking of the hair and stuff like that, everybody went natural. Late 60s into the 70s. James Brown said black and I'm proud. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. And all of that feel good pride. Nothing wrong with that. But that was supposed to be an opening feeling. It was supposed to be temporary. Why? Because black as a classification, because nobody's skin is literally black. So hopefully we can all get past the literalism of that. Okay. Nobody's skin is actually black. But black represents something though in this hierarchy of this construct, this modern social construct. And guess what that is? It represents the bottom level. White represents the top. So if we were to assign numbers to these races, so we had black, red, yellow, white. Black, red, yellow, white. It was all colors basically. Now, we done switched it all up. We got black, white, oceanic, Pacific, South Pacific, all these other kind of things that crept up in there now. But the point is that these races, colors were actually levels in the social structure in this country, mainly here. But and there's a big caste system over in India as well. But let's stick to here. Black is the bottom. Now check this out. If we were to swap the color words, so we cross out the colors, black, white, red, and yellow. We cross those out, eliminate that. We replace them with level 1. So black now is level 1. Red now is level 2. Yellow is level 3. White is level 4. Now I'm gonna ask you something. If you play an arcade game, you play a video game, and when you first start off, you always start off on the ground level, on level 1. The goal of the game is always to go to higher and higher and higher levels. If your game doesn't have levels, then you're trying to get a higher and higher and higher score. Regardless, you start at the bottom and you work your way up, right? Didn't Drake, somebody made a song like we started here, now we're here, or something like that, whatever. But anyway, so we have these levels, and black is level 1. So when we say we're black and we're proud, although we use it as a tool to instill pride, we're socially gluing and anchoring ourselves into the bottom caste, the very bottom caste, and to remain there. And that's the thing. We were never supposed to stay at the bottom. We were always, like a video game. You start off at level 1, then you go to the level 2, you go to level 3, you go to level 4. And so today we have fancy words to cover up all this stuff or to not realize it. So we say things like white privilege. And it's been white privilege. Why? Because white has been on the top. White has always been level 4. So it's not like a separate thing to have white privilege. No, white was the privileged level. Instead of saying white or level 4, let's just swap it for the word privilege. And black will be the severely underprivileged. But anyway, so I don't want to go off on a big tangent about that. But I forgot what I was saying before I even went there with it. But the bottom line is that the ancient Egyptians, were a distinct culture of people. They made themselves distinct from their neighbors. No, they're not what people like to call Nubians today. The Nubians to the ancient Egyptians were never called Nubians, first of all. So let me make sure everybody's clear on that. The Egyptians did not call the Nubians of what's identified as Nubians today. They did not call them that. The Egyptians called that whole area south of them, they referred to it as Ta Nehisi. Okay. And then within that region, remember the word Ta is a word that means region. Similar to how we use the word Middle East. Okay. Middle East is not a country. When we say Middle East, we're talking about a geographical region. And so the word Ta reflects that. So Ta Nehisi, which means the geographical region of Nehisi. And so within that region, you had different people, and the Egyptians knew and interacted with different people. They had names for them. For example, they had the Wawat people. They had the Miam people. They had the Yam people. They had the Magi people, which is the Magi. You had the Iram people. You have the everybody knows about the Kosh, which we pronounce as Kush, the Kushites. Everybody knows about them. So the Egyptians interacted with all these different people that fall up under the umbrella of Nehisiu or Ta Nehisi. Okay. And they were distinct from them. Now today, everybody call all those people Nubians. So no, the Egyptians are not the Nubians of what people are referring to as Nubians. So in other words, they're not the Wawat. They're not the Nehisiu collectively. They're not the Aram. They're not the Cushites. They're not. Now, there were some native Cushites or some native people from that region who came into Egypt and became prominent and elite people, such as we know about Taharqa, Pianki, and all of them during the 25th dynasty. But even throughout the history of Kemet, you have people that come from that region who were brought into royalty and learned in school with the royal children or the royal families or people of high ranks from being a baby being raised, and what they refer to as being Egyptianized or Kemetized. Okay. And they became full-fledged Remage or Egyptians. So you do have all of that going on at the same time. And we have to remember, Kemet lasted for over 3,000 years. So there's a whole lot going on in Kemet in 3,000 years. I mean, look at the United States. The United States is what, 1776 till now, you know, in terms of a formal constituted whatever or something. That's not very long. And look how much history, look how much things have transpired in the United States. 244 years. So United States is roughly 244 years. And look how much has transpired in these 244 years. But now look at 3,000. So obviously you're gonna get a lot of variety. You're gonna get a lot of things happening. So anyway, I'm just saying that to say that yes, there were people from the Levant that came in that held prominent positions. Matter of fact, forcefully at intermediate periods where you have the quote unquote Hyksos or the Hyksos people taking the throne, and then eventually being overthrown, and Egypt being restored to its former structure and everything. So you did have that going on as well. But anyway, the point is that all this blackology and colorism needs to go. It's for the birds. We wore it out. A lot of the claims are just wrong. A lot of the claims are fantasy, romanticized, and feel good things that we have to repeat to ourselves. And that's why I asked the question, who are we trying to convince for real? Are we trying to convince the pushback on the scholarship, or are we really telling ourselves this over and over again as a coping mechanism? You know, but we don't need it. Yes, the Egyptians were African. Yes, they had multiple shades of skin. If you're into skin, if that's your thing, if that's important to you, then it was a wide range of skin tones, just like Africa has today, just like the United States has today, just like the world has today. They didn't distinguish people in groups based on their skin color. They had eyes. Of course, they recognized different features people had, but they didn't use skin color as a criteria to group people like we do today. We say the white man, and then we have an idea of what a white man is or a white woman is, and vice versa. Black man, black woman. We have an idea in our head about that. Those are arbitrary, and it's real because we operate under that today. That's the modern social construct of race. And it's to our disadvantage to keep using it. I'm telling you, the moment that we can shake off that social construct of race by however we do it, the moment we can do that, everything will open up. I'm telling you. Kemet was a black lad. Oh, man. And that's another thing. I mean, okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm telling you, I'll talk y'all to death. I'll put y'all to sleep. I'm glad that Asar brought that up. Kemet is a black land, because that kind of sums up what I'm saying. The overcompensation of this pushback on the Egyptians. You know, if somebody says the Egyptians are white, then the pushback is nope, they're not white, they're black. But I'm talking about overcompensation. So we have venerated scholars and the layperson alike overly compensating the Egyptians are black. They have black skin. They're cherry picking pictures like the one I have on the screen. They're they're picking, the tomb of Ramses the third, where there's a what they call it, aberrant um um artistic work where they actually show the same order of these four groupings I showed you all earlier. But in terms of the figures, they actually doubled up on these two sets of four to make them look alike. And so people saying, yeah, the Nehisiu or the Nubians and the Egyptians, they saw themselves as the same. No, they did not. Because that's only exists in one tomb out of 3,000 plus years. That only exists in one tomb in one scene, tucked away in a corner that you could barely get a picture of it. And that's not how they got down. That's not how they operated. And it exists in other tombs, but it doesn't look like that. The story, that is the Book of Gates. But anyway, so this over compensation has got people today that will say the place name, and I'm being very specific, the place name Kemet means the land of the black skinned people. And that's false. So y'all hear it from me. I've been saying this for years. And I'm not the only one that said, I got colleagues. Asar is one. I don't know if you're still listening. Brother Sanjetti. We actually wrote a preliminary article. We actually wrote, each one of us wrote a preliminary introductory article to get people caught up on the arguments to demonstrate that the place name Kemet does not and never did and never will refer to people. And you don't have to be an expert on this. You don't have to know anything from anything about linguistics or any of that. Just understand a toponym, which is a place name. The word toponym comes from the Greek topos, meaning place, and onym, meaning name. A place name. Think about this. A place name never refers to people. If it did, it wouldn't be called a place name. Okay? The place name Kemet does not refer to people. It refers to the place. And so it will never mean black people, black skinned people. It's a place. People still go there today. People get a ticket and go tour to Egypt. They don't go tour a black person. They go tour a place. They book a flight to a place, not a person. I mean, that's just some common sense stuff. But anyway, I don't even want to go too much. Let me just read some of these comments here. I don't want to leave you all out. Now, listen, I have the link pinned here. Now, if y'all want to jump in here and get a quick discussion going on, I don't mind. Because y'all know my nickname is MC Iron Lung. And I will talk you to death. But let's see. Okay, so Sheffrin, white people need to shake it off, not us. Okay, so let's think about that for a second. Yes, I mean that's the it still exists. So in other words, what the claims are going the other way, those still exist. But really, if you look at the pushback, this is why I'm stressing there's an overcompensation, like to the point where we have to lie, we have to cherry pick, we have to distort the record, we have to pretend that we can argue it without actually learning the language, learning the culture, and actually using primary text and things like that. We actually pretend that we can do that. And so the one thing that the other side has to their advantage is that when they speak on this, they're diving in with information. They're actually using things to support what they're saying. Where with us, we're going off of feel good. We're going off of obscure and rare, even errors in things. Like this picture, that's not an error. I'm not saying this is an error, but I'm saying we're cherry picking. we're saying the Egyptians are black. See, look at this picture here. And I'm gonna tell you, if you were to Google right now, ancient Egyptian wall art or whatever, what have you, and just spend some time, look at all of them, go from dynasty 0, 1, or whatever, all the way to dynasty 30, and just look at all the depictions of the ancient Egyptians. And you'll come to find out that over 90%, I always say 99, but over 90% of those depictions, if you ask yourself what color pigments did they use for those, you will not see black. The majority will be a reddish brown, something in the category of reddish brown. And it differed. It had a range, but that's what you'll see for men. And women, you'll see this more yellow, pale pigments used for women, as you see in this picture here. That's what you'll see. And so if that is the canon and the standard of the representation of the ancient Egyptians themselves, why would they do that, but then name their country after their skin color? But yet, so they were so proud of their skin color that they named their entire kingdom after their skin color, but they didn't visually represent themselves with the same, in that same zeal and spirit. No, that itself don't even make sense. But anyway, hold on, let me keep going. So Asar says we need to find that text where the Egyptians and the Nahisi were the child of Heru and the Asiatics the child of Seth. Okay, yeah, we'll dig that up. I think somebody's on here. Oh, iPhone. Peace to you. I don't know who this is, but peace.
Peace. This is Emmanuel.
Oh, how you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Good. Did you have anything to comment on?
No, I just hit the link to see what's going on here. So.
Oh, okay. Have you been listening to what I've been saying?
No, this is my first time. I just was told. I just saw the link on Facebook. I was told to click if I'm interested. So I clicked to hear what
Oh, what I'm saying. Okay. Well, you're more than welcome to listen. But actually, I was trying to wrap it up because I've been on for a while, and if you were listening already, then you probably have some comments.
No, I missed it. I just got on. That's what I'm saying. I missed the whole thing there. Are you on again, or when would I be able to listen in another time? Because I just got on, so I missed everything.
Okay, yeah, no, I've been live for a while. So when you click just now, I had already been speaking for maybe over 30 minutes, and so.
Oh, well, I missed the whole thing. I mean, then.
Yeah, but I mean, you're more than welcome to listen. I mean, I'm just saying that I was going to kind of wrap it up and everything, but it's good to meet you and everything. If you when I go live, you're more than welcome to listen, chime in, and
okay. When you go live, do I get a notification to know? Because
yeah, well, I think you have to be my friend on Facebook, or not sure if it works like YouTube where you can get a notification, but yeah, just send me a friend request.
Okay, I'll do that then.
Okay, but it's good to meet you, and hopefully next time we'll get to exchange information.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
All right, next time.
Okay, all right. Peace to you.
Okay, bye. Peace.
Hey, Babu Jaru.
Yeah, Hotep. It's Ampu Ma'at. Peace.
Got it, brother. I got a question. I've been trying to figure this out for the longest. Where do our good brothers and sisters come from as far as the ancient Egyptians? What are their origins? Like what bloodline or lineage they might follow?
Okay. Yeah, somebody asked me that earlier, so I'll just summarize again. So, okay, first, and I'm sure you already clear on this, is that the ancient Egyptians as a whole, they were never a homogeneous one one people, you know, like they weren't one genetic population or anything like that. At all times, there was an amalgamation of different groups of people that converged on the Nile. So you have people coming from the direction of the Sahara Desert. You have people coming from the Levant area, or the Middle East, and you have people coming from the South. And so all those people over time converged on the Nile, settling down. And then later, you have this effort and this force of administration and organization that came from the South and had a northern movement. And so that's where you get the idea, or we get the idea, that the Egyptians came from the South when people say that, but it's really the administration or the organizing aspect that came from the South and started to organize things, working its way towards the North, and more so conquering the North. And it's kind of reflected in the text, even in the Namir's palette, where you see Namir conquering what's called Lower Kemet with the red crown.
Yes.
And so on. Yeah. So to answer your question, the short answer is that people came from different places. It was not one single genetic population. It was a different, diverse group of people that settled along the Nile, and then eventually they organized under one confederacy, and it was called Simatawi, or what we know now as Kemet. You still there? Like you froze.
I had kind of lost my signal. You hear me good?
Okay, I can hear you. I can hear you. Look like you froze.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So pretty much, so say if I see what's the good brother, the Nesubidi, King Tut, like, you know, say if they bury pretty much dig him up out of his grave.
Yeah.
Why do I see orange hair? Isn't orange hair considered to be like Arab? Or I understand the whole thing of, you know, genealogy and stuff change for climatology and things. So I was just a little confused when it comes to that.
No, well, okay. When you're talking about people being exhumed, because that's really what it is, what we call it today, exhuming people's bodies that's been buried for thousands of years and have gone through a mummification process, which is essentially a chemical process
Yes, sir.
of trying to preserve the body. We always have to take into account the consequences of those chemicals and the age of the person, and whether the person had was practicing dyeing their hair with henna and stuff like that, just in general. So I'm just naming some general things that we always got to keep in our mind when we're looking at the physical attributes of these mummies. And so when we see these mummies with light hair, gray hair, red hair, or what looks like it's blonde hair, we can't take it as face value and just run with it. We always have to consider those things that I just mentioned. And so, for example, Ramses, the mummy of Ramses, people are claiming that he had blonde hair because that's how it looks now. But Ramses died when he was around 87 years old, 87 to 90 years old. Ramses had gray hair. Ramses is known for dyeing his hair. Now, they've done forensic analysis on that and found that he had a reddish pigment to his hair, to his real natural hair. And what's interesting about that is because his father, Seti I, was called Seti, which means he of Setuk, or Set. And Set was known as the red one, or the one with red hair. And so it's not odd to kind of connect the dots there. But in terms of red hair being Arab and all of that, that's just not true. You still there? Oh man, he got cut off. I think he lost the signal. So all right, so let me go back to these comments real quick, because I don't want this to be too long. Okay, hold up. But Sheffrin was saying something. All right, let me see. Did I skip something? All right, I see a SARS comment. Okay, Aku Ra. Okay, that's who came in. What's the origin of Egyptian? Okay, so I answered that. So Sheffrin, so where did all the black people go? Where did all the black people go? Egypt is in Africa. Yeah, Egypt is in Africa. So that's just it. Now, okay, so because I'm not sure if I understand your question, Sheffer, fully. But let me say this. In Egypt, like I said, you had a mixture of different people, but they had a unified consciousness of identity as the Rimage. All right. But now there were people who lived towards the south, and just like any border, like even in the United States, we have Texas and Mexico at the border. That Texas and Mexican border, whenever you have two bordering countries, you're always going to have this gradient blend of people, whether it's on the level of genetics, whether it's on the level of ethnicity or culture. You're going to have this cross pollination and this blending at the borders. I mean, this is just a natural phenomenon that happens. And so at the southern border of Kemet, you have this same thing going on. And so there's an overlap within Kemet, and then there's a overlap of Nehisiu peoples and things overlapping into Kemet, and then you have Kemet overlapping into the area of Ta-Nehisi. And so at that border, you have this blend. Now, the people who lived in the South, they are looked at today as different. And today you have people who are called now Nubians who live in Egypt, who lived, who their ancestral homeland is in southern Egypt near Aswan and Elephantine and what's called Abu in ancient times and so on and so forth, all the way up as far as Kom Ombo, what's known as Kom Ombo now. These people were displaced and they're not treated very well, according to them, and the what do you call it? The protests and things that they do that they've been doing for years. Similarly to how we had civil rights movements and things like that in the United States. So they're over there protesting to go back to their homeland because the Aswan Dam was built. They got displaced and so on and so forth. But those are the people who would be considered, okay, that's the like today, based on today's standards, those would be the Black Egyptians, you know. And it's not a coincidence that the Black Egyptians, there's that level of blackness again being at the bottom, and how they're engaged and how they're treated, same way that Blacks of the diaspora were treated and are seen, and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of things to unpack there with what people refer to as Nubians now, because Nubians actually overlap in southern Egypt and northern Sudan right now. That's pretty much that whole territory people refer to as Nubia, and the people as Nubians. All right. But even the Nubians themselves, they're not a homogeneous people either. Okay. So gotta keep all that in mind. But I see we got AI or Al in here. Peace. Were you here? Were you in here before? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I was in him before. I was just talking to his handful.
Okay. PC. So yeah, I know you had cut off. So were you finished what you were saying?
I my phone had died. I literally had 2%. I was trying to throw it on the charger. I lost you.
Oh, okay. Well, I was basically, to go all the way back to your question, I was saying that the Egyptians were not a homogeneous people on any level, and they are a result of different population groups converging on the Nile over periods of time. So you have people coming from the Sahara direction, the Levant direction, and the southern direction, Uganda, Kenya, moving on up over a period of time.
They come from our pretty much the ancient brothers and sisters come from, right? In a nutshell.
Okay, you broke up. Say it again.
I says brothers and sisters pretty much came from our regions of motherland Africa in a nutshell, right?
Yeah, I mean, within proximity, and over time, yeah. And there was, an indigenous people that got absorbed, like, you know, over time, a lot of things will start to settle. So the differences would start to melt and evaporate to where people start to amalgamate. And that was part of the unification process as well. That's what helped that unification process. And sometimes that's done out of necessity of survival and things like that, you know.
I see. I
Um,
understand.
yeah, yeah. So that, you know, that's basically what I was saying. All I was saying. Why you got cut off.
Gotcha. Again, I apologize for the, phone dying and stuff. This is my
No,
mistake.
that's all right. Yeah, I mean, you gave me an excuse to keep on talking.
That's cool.
So let me just I just want to go through a couple of these comments real quick. So I think I deal with that one. Emicat, plus, why weren't they proud of their skin color in the country before 11th dynasty? Oh, right. That's a good point.
One quick question.
And peace to Danielle. But oh yeah,
Representative?
you had a question?
Yeah. So they're not. So none of them will be considered Asiatic or anything.
No, there was an Asiatic presence in pre-dynastic times. You know, since pre-dynastic times, there was an Asiatic presence.
Okay.
Yes.
What will they depict their type of skin tone, or they didn't really have a certain skin tone for certain things that you show, like when it
Right.
comes to origins, like skin tone, dark skin, light skin, white, whatever. It's like they broke it down and stuff. It's not
Okay, I'm glad you asked that, right? Because so here's the thing, and I want everybody to understand this, is that so I'm gonna give you a modern example. So the United States of America is anthropomorphized, the country itself is anthropomorphized into a character called Uncle Sam. Okay. And then Uncle Sam is given a visual representation. Like when I say Uncle Sam, you picture a guy with a top hat on, red, white, and blue suit with a great gray beard or whatever case is, kind of look like Abraham Lincoln. Okay.
Yes.
That's the typical idea of Uncle Sam. Okay, that represents the United States. So now, most cultures will have, and we do it here in America. Like right now, we have the national bird, which is the eagle, the bald eagle, or whatever. Every state has a flag. Every state has a animal mascot or bird or whatever. Well, guess what? In ancient times, they did similar things. You had totems, you had animal totems and stuff like this for different local areas and then the country as a whole. So I say that to say that the scribes and the artists, they had a canon, they had a standard canon on how they represented the entire country in their artwork, the people. And so that canon, in terms of skin color, the pigment they used was a reddish brown. And so I'm going to demonstrate this for you to prove my point.
Okay.
So now we all know that the Ptolemies, the Ptolemy kings of Kemet were not what we would consider today Black people, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and we know, even if we didn't know that, we know that they were not the Egyptians. They came in under the banner of invader. They invaded and basically took over, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now the picture I'm showing on my screen right now, this king right here that's in front of Amen, this blue figure is the deity Amen. The king in front of him is Ptolemaeus. This is the Ptolemy, and he's being painted the same color as the Egyptians represented themselves. So this is a confirmation of my claim, of my point, that the Egyptians had a standard on how they represented the nation of people, to the point that a foreigner who came in and took over is also painted and depicted in that same form. You understand that? So So when you ask about how the Egyptians were represented, that, you know, the skin color of, you know, the Asiatic element or whatever the case is, none of that mattered. If you were considered an Egyptian, you were depicted under the umbrella of that standard. And this is what I'm showing on the screen right now. And so how we know his name is Ptolemaeus or Ptolemy is right here in the Shenu. We have Sarah, Ptolemaeus, Medi Ptah, and
Yes,
then Net Unk. That's his
I,
whole name in the Shenu.
I see what you mean. I was already paying attention to the Shanu with the glyphs that's inside of it.
Okay, there you go. See, so see, you already on point. but so this is Ptolemy, and we know Ptolemy did not look like this because we have other natural busts of him. For example, exhibit number 1. So, and then I have other examples, but you know, I don't want to take too long. Like this here, we have Ramses versus one of the Ptolemies, later kings. But you notice that they're represented in the same standard fashion. Now we don't see any colors on here, but the same standard fashion with the Nemes head covering, the Uraeus band going around, and so on and so forth. So anyway, just want to show that. Here's another one. Same thing. Ptolemaeus with the elaborate crown, you know. So, and he's before the deity Men in this one. All right. So anyway, I'm just showing those examples
I got you, Fable. Thank you.
to answer that question. All right. So let me just get to the make sure I'm not missing any chat, and then I'm gonna wrap this up because y'all tempted me to talk all night, and I would have did this on YouTube, you know, have a whole big conversation. Let's see, Sheffrin. Okay, Danielle says Egyptians not being homogeneous is kind of like how Jews are not one race. There are Ethiopian Jews, European Jews, Palestinian Jews, etc. Jews are an amalgamation of many different races united by a single Jewish culture. Or, since race is a social construct, one could say different ethnicities united by a single culture. And that's a very good point, because that's what America is. Like America, we have an American culture, but then we do have elements of beneath the American umbrella culture. We have, you know, these kind of subcultures, as they like to be called, and African Americans, as you know, the name that's used now, is an ethnicity, but we don't embrace it, we don't cultivate it, but you know, it's an ethnicity. We like to, you know, say black. We have that flat blackness, and we go by skin. So people that have brown to, you know, a certain shade of skin and a certain look based on what we feel, we say, okay, that's black, not realizing the diversity within the blackness, even within the United States. And I'm gonna tell you, on a subtle level, we know this, but we ignore it. Just from, like, I'm in Georgia, and just from New York, or let's take East Coast, West Coast, New York, and then LA. And then you got black people in New York, black people in LA. But there's a certain substrate that makes it different. It's just different. And I know that from, I'm born and raised in DC, Washington, DC, the DMV. Came down here to Georgia, and I'm like, man, it's a little different down here. Came down here, but I was like, what is everybody eating? First of all, tell me that. Like, I'm like, man, it's some big people down here. When I first moved here, you know, and I know, see, and now when I talk to anybody from my hometowns and stuff, they say I sound country, and I know I do. You know, they say I sound totally different. And I'm sure I do, because they sound different to me, you know. But anyway, so hopefully that kind of answers all those questions. Let's see. MK, yeah, I have gingerhead family members, so I agree. My Danielle says my grandfather, a black man, had red hair. Right. See, on the red hair thing, that's that's known. We got different names for colors: auburn, red, ginger, and whatever these other fancy um names we give to these different colors. But we have to understand that Africa itself is a very, very diverse place. And this probably be the last thing because I don't see any other questions. But listen, on the issue of race, if people want to argue and swim in that, and I suggest we stop. I suggest that we forego the social construct of race. Yes, it's a social construct and it's real only because we operate under it and we acquiesce to it. But if we understand it and kind of dance with it or leverage it, then we could change the conversation. We could definitely change the conversation. But to do that, we just have to understand that there's different layers of identity. There is, so for example, we have from top down or from wide to getting narrow. So a wide level of identity would be, and this just for examples, earthling. So all of us are earthlings because we occupy the planet Earth. All right. So that's like the broadest level of identity. Then we're all humans, Homo sapiens sapiens. Okay. That would be a next level because we differentiate, we distinguish ourselves from other animals and plants and stuff like that. All right. So we're all human beings. And so the further down you go, you'll start seeing these layers get more defined and refined. And we have to be aware of that at all times, not to confuse any layer from each other. We have to understand that. So we get to the continental level. So we have a continent called Africa. Therefore, everyone who is domiciled on that continent is a present African, presently. So we have the continental level. Then within the continent, we have nations or countries, however you want to word it. And so we have Uganda, Kenya, South Sudan, North Sudan now, it was all one Sudan, Egypt, Morocco, and Nigeria, all these different countries. And so you have this national identity level. And so let's just take Kenya. So you have everybody who lives in Kenya, who is a member of that nation, they are called Kenyans. They're all Kenyans. But then you drill down further to another level, you have another level of tribes or ethnicities. And so you have Kikuyu, you have the Maasai, you have the Luo, to name a few. But they're all Kenyans, but they're still distinct from one another, and they're proud of it. And they will get on you if you mistake them for somebody else. Okay, that's another level. And this is all before the genetic level, DNA level of genes and everything. But you have that level, and that level does not correlate to the other levels. So I'm speaking to Danielle's comment when she said what she said earlier. What was it? Oh, when she said one could say different ethnicities united by a single culture. So on a country level, you see that. But then as you dig in a little deeper, you'll start to see some kind of distinctions being made. Okay. And so the Confederacy, going all the way back to ancient Kemet now, going to ancient Egypt, Kemet now, you have these different population groups realizing, manifesting and realizing a more unified consciousness of a single member, confederacy and state, polity called Kemet, or Simatawi prior to it to being called Kemet. And so that is a natural organic development of human societies. And so culture could never be developed by people sitting at a table and then saying, hey, I want to create a culture. Culture doesn't work that way. Culture is a natural organic thing. Just like we incorporate a business and we bring a business into existence, and it gets its own social security number. We call it EIN number. We register with the state. It gets a birth certificate called the Articles of Organization or Articles of Incorporation. That's the company's birth certificate, and it becomes a person, a legal person, at least in the United States. I can't speak for anywhere else, but businesses are legal persons. A business can go into court and sue and be sued. So cultures do that organically. And that's when a group of people come together and have certain elements that are in common that are geared towards solving problems and resolving any imbalancement, conflicts, and so on and so forth, and whatever it takes to do it. Communication wise, that means that people are likely 99.9% of the time, they're going to all speak the same language. Language is a very key point. They're going to do the same rituals. They're going to do the same thing. And that sameness starts to, manifest or harden, and it become the culture. And people have a tacit agreement because nobody sits down and say, okay, hey, I'm going to be a part of this culture or I'm going to create this culture. It's something that happens over time naturally. And we call it a tacit agreement where you unconsciously agree. And that's it. Kemet is a prime example, but I don't want to paint a picture like Kemet was all green lit and like a heavenly place for 3,000 years. It definitely had its ups and downs and all of that. But they did what they did, and we can learn from that. So anyway, man, if I don't cut this now, I'm gonna keep talking forever. So listen, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hopefully people got the point. As a matter of fact, let me just end by putting this picture back up that I started with, which is this one. So just to kind of go back to my point, this picture is showing Ahmose-Nefertari, which is a very highly venerated woman, African woman, who was queen in her time. Hemednasut is the term. She's the royal wife, and she had a lot of different epithets, and she did a lot of things. So if you don't know about her, and all you know is that, okay, yeah, she had black skin in this picture, then shame on you. But definitely read up on her. Read up on her. Read up on Hatshepsut, or Ma'at is her throne name. She was King Hatshepsut. People like to say Queen Hatshepsut, but we gotta straighten that out. She's King Hatshepsut. So learn about her and learn about Ahmose-Nefertari. All right, because she did some very powerful things in her day and when she was alive. All right. Same thing with Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut got down. I'm gonna tell you, if you read about Hatshepsut and the things that occurred under her reign, you would think that she's the most slept on person. We all hear about King Tut because of the artifacts. We hear about Ramses II because he was so old, lasted so long, reigned so long, had so many wives, and he was all that. Khufu and stuff with the pyramids. We hear about certain ones, but these women, definitely learn about them. All right. But don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe to think that this is her realistic skin color and things like that. All right. I mentioned that black has a very significant meaning in funerary texts. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but one is the significant or the realization of black is for transition, it's for fertility, it's for regeneration. And this is one reason why she holds in her hand that you see on the picture the water lily blossom, or the lotus blossom, as people like to call it. All right, because the lotus, if you understand the symbol of the lotus or how it was used in the culture, it was regeneration, rebirth from one state to another. And so the sun, you have this deity Nefertim, who is born within the lotus flower, and then the lotus, would bloom and have this golden hue, and that was like the sun, because the sun is yellow or golden, and so on and so forth, and gave birth to the sun and all that. But it's a whole lot to discuss about that. But that's why one of the reasons why she is holding that. And like I said, she is found in over 50 different tombs, which is odd for a person not only to be depicted in their own tomb, but they're depicted in 50 other tombs, private tombs, after she done passed away. And so she was deified, and she stood at the west bank, at the foot of the mountain, the west mountain, along with Het Heru in the form of a cow. This is how you will see her. She'd be depicted as she is here with black pigment, but she'd be at the western mountain along with the cow form of Het Heru, welcoming the deceased into the west. And so this black color, you understand how the transition, you have a deity who is responsible for preparing people for a transition, which is known as Inpu or Anpu or Anubis. People refer to the canine jackal deity. He's the embalmer. He's the one who's master of the embalming chambers and things. And that canine or that jackal is also black. But in real life, Egyptian jackals that are native to that area are not black, but they paint them black. And also, Amen is depicted as blue sometimes and black in other times. Blue, representation of the expansiveness of the sky, and black, you still have that imperceivable state where regeneration occurs and transformation occurs. All right, so these are just a few things of the significance of the color black, all right, and why she is painted black. All right, but anyway, I think that's it for me. I am trying to make sure I didn't mention anything. No, that's it. So listen, I appreciate it. This has been your brother Wujao Min Ib Eri Ma'at, and I'm gonna try to go live. You know, I always like to do complimentary videos to my posts, because my posts, for some reason, you know, people, like I said before, it's funny, but it's not funny. People will look at a post, and not just mine, but they'll look at a post instead of saying to themselves, like, wait a minute, I didn't think about that before. Let me check that out. Or okay, I know about that. Let me add to it. Or let me, you know, chime in. Instead, the default setting most people have is they'll see a post and they say, it's wrong. And that's their first declaration. It's wrong. And then they go and try to find something to show that it's wrong. They don't even know that at first. That's their automatic, you know, and that's crazy. And so I get that a lot. And so I like to do these complimentary videos to my posts, because I know how, you know, things can get misconstrued when you type out and you try to go back and forth with people, especially people who are adversarial. And you know, people know me. I don't run from a good conversation, but I do not tolerate bad character. I do not tolerate immaturity, childishness, and stuff like that. I really don't have time for it. I do not have time to babysit children in adult bodies and stuff. I don't do that. That's not me. You know, but I don't turn down good conversations. You know, even if you disagree, there's just a way, and I'm cool, because I see disagreements as like a jigsaw puzzle or math problem that I will try to solve. So if we disagree, then let's work together to solve it. That's how I roll. And so anyway, but I'm gonna say peace and Shem Hotep to everybody. I appreciate you all tuning in. And you know, if anything that you all heard, you know, discussed or whatever, and you know somebody interested, tag them into the comments or share the video. All right, but I'm gonna say Shem Hotep, peace.
Shimon Hotep.